To this week's edition of NCompass Live. I am your host, Christa Porter, here at the Nebraska Library Commission. NCompass Live is the Commission's weekly webinar series where we cover a variety of topics that may be of interest to libraries. We broadcast the show live every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Central Time, but if you're unable to join us on Wednesdays, that's fine. We do record the show as we are doing today, and it will be posted to our show archives for you to watch later at your convenience. And I will show you at the end of today's show where you can see all of our show archives. Both the live show and the recordings are free and open to anyone to watch. So please do share, spread the word to your friends, family, neighbors, colleagues, anyone you think might be interested in any of the topics we have on NCompass Live. If you are not from Nebraska, the Nebraska Library Commission is the state agency for libraries. So we are similar to your whatever state library. So we provide training and resources and databases and grants and consulting and all sorts of things to all types of libraries in the state. So you will find shows on NCompass Live for all types of libraries. Public, academic, K-12, schools, corrections, museums, archives, historical societies, et cetera, et cetera. Really, our only criteria is that it's something to do with libraries. Something cool libraries are doing, something cool we think they could be doing. We have guest speakers come on NCompass Live oftentimes to present about cool things they're doing in their library from across Nebraska and across the country. But we also have Library Commission staff that do presentations today, presentations for us. And that is what you have today. I am doing double duty today. I am both your host, as I always am every week, but I am also your presenter for today. So I am today's presenter, and we are going to be talking this morning about discovering new grants for your library and thinking outside the box to do this. Here at the Library Commission, in addition to hosting our NCompass Live show here, my title is Library Development Director, and in our Library Development Department, we handle all of the Nebraska Library Commission, most of the Nebraska Library Commission grants that we give out to libraries. And I'm going to talk a little bit about those. We did do a session about our grants this year last month on September 10th, so you can watch that recording to learn all the details about the grants that we give out here through the Library Commission. But there are lots of other grant opportunities and funding opportunities out there for libraries. And sometimes we don't think about those. We are just thinking library. What are some library grants that I can get from the typical places? And as part of my job here as Library Development Director, running our grants here, I also keep an eye out for other opportunities, other funding opportunities and grant opportunities for libraries. So we are going to look at some grants and you might find in unexpected places for your libraries. Now, to keep track of all of this, I have put together a website, a web page on our Library Commission website of grant opportunities for libraries. So I'm going to pop over here to our main Nebraska Library Commission homepage. We are at nlc.nebraska.gov is the URL to get to our website. And on the left side of the screen here, we have a menu system here, flyout menu with lots of information on different things. And about halfway down is grants, funding, and E-rate. Is anything funding related. We kind of gathered here in one section. So if you're looking for any sorts of information about any sort of funding that either we offer or that we help other places offer, it would be here. But what I am going to be, and here's information about our grants that we offer, our 4 basic grants to the Library Commission that I'll talk about briefly. But I am going to highlight over here this grant opportunities for Nebraska libraries page that I have put together. And this is where I've tried to gather our grants, other kinds of opportunities out there, just any sort of funding that you could possibly be interested in. And here is the main page. The URL, just to jump to that, is nlc.nebraska.gov/grants. so here I've gathered, it's not everything. It's not everything. There may be grants that you have applied for that you know about that are not listed on here. I just try to, as I know of things, make sure people are aware of them and keep them on this website. So you will see things pop on and off this page. And this is a pretty long page, longish page, because lots of resources here. And I'm going to go through it all. So we'll go into each grant, almost all the grants that we have here right now. And just to give you, some more ideas, libraries always struggle with budget issues. It's a common thing, almost, universal, but especially now, and as we are in a economic downturn, things are not going well. Funding to libraries when people are struggling to with their own bills and their own basic costs. Libraries often depend on sales tax income or income from their municipalities as part of their budget. And if the municipality is struggling because people are not buying as much stuff because everyone is struggling to pay, prices are increasing for our groceries and for our basic services, they're not buying as much, sales tax income is down. We've heard about that at the Nebraska state level, that it's a problem for the state. Well, it's happening everywhere. So libraries are possibly suffering from that as well, and having their budgets cut or lowered because the whole community's budget is income and resources is less. So you do need to get a little creative and see where else can you find funding to help fund the things that you do at the library. Even in good times, sometimes there is just not enough money to do all the cool, amazing things that you want to do at your library, how you want to have new services or just continue current services, buying books, having a maker space, big new thing, STEM or STEAM programming and equipment and materials for that. There are just so many things that libraries need to do, and having some more ways to get funding will be helpful. Last year, we did have a session on NCompass Live about winning grants for your library programming. The recording is here. I definitely mentioned watching that if you want to. It's just a general about how to write grants, write good grants. So I have a link there at the top of our grant opportunities page. I also have a link here at the top, the beginning of the page is all the different grants, but then at the very bottom, I have resources for finding funding. So that will pop you down to the bottom of the page for other places to go to. Like I said, this page is not exhaustive. It is not every single grant or every single funding opportunity that a library could have. When I was keep an eye out on grants for libraries, I found out there really isn't one place that has everything. Unfortunately. And it's really hard to do that because there are just so many opportunities, so many grants out there. So I give you some more resources here that you can also go to expand and look for more things beyond my page here. There is here the Nebraska Children and Families Foundation. This is actually a resource that was started by the Nebraska's Department of Economic Development, Foundation Resource Directory. So this is for all types of things that you might find out there. I'm going to do it this way here. And this just links right to the most current version of this is 2023 and is updated regularly by the Nebraska Children and Families Foundation. And it's grants for Nebraska children, youth, families, and communities. And that's where libraries come into communities, municipalities. So this will have lists of all sorts of different trusts and programs. Some of these are on my page too, because I've noticed them and pulled them out, but there are just so many things in here. I highly recommend taking a look at this and seeing if there's anything that your library could apply for. When you're looking at things for a library, if it doesn't specifically, and this is something to think about too when you're thinking outside the box for funding and grants, don't just look for things that say library grant or library funding. Look for nonprofit. You're a nonprofit. Look for 501c3. If your foundation or friends group is officially designated as a 501c3 nonprofit, that is sometimes what some grants say you are eligible for. If it says government entity, municipality, department, government, city department, you are that. You are as the public library, you are all of those things. If you are a school, you would look for things that would say school or K-12 or education for the schools, or universities, same kind of thing. So, and also schools and universities are also nonprofit, generally. So you need to look for things that don't just say library. You know, think about, well, what are we actually? We are a nonprofit, we are a government entity, we are a municipality, a department of our municipality, we are educational. Look for those kind of things when you're looking through these kind of resources. Grant Station, I use this one a lot. I've signed up for their weekly newsletter. They do have a pay version where you can get, you know, more in-depth information, but there's a free weekly newsletter that they will send out with any sort of grants that they are promoting. Some in there for regional ones, nationwide ones, general grants. So I definitely recommend signing up for that. They do have previous issues here on their website, so you can see what they've mentioned in previous ones. So here's funding for education, health, and faith-based initiatives, research, agricultural. So, and they do it by national, regional, and federal funding. But I use this one a lot, and I learn about lots of new grants that are for libraries. Many of them are not specific because they're just any kind of grants, but you will find some gems in there. There's a website too, actually a blog, Library Grants, that is done by, here we go. Stephanie Girding is an author, a librarian and author, and she writes a book, Winning Grants, a How to Do It manual for librarians. It's in its 3rd edition now. I definitely recommend looking at that. I believe we have it here at the commission to check out, but I will double check that. We always try to get the most recent version of that when it does come out. But this is the library specific grants. So you will see some of these I've also shared. If you want to go back and look at previous ones when they were on here. So this is a good one to keep an eye on. Here's something specific for music research and music librarianship, scholarship for children's librarians. So anything really library related, Stephanie keeps track of here. She's really good at that. But I also really do recommend her manual if you want to use that as a resource. And the American Library Association, of course, has tons of grants. So there's specific library ones that you can see them all here. And some of these I do share out as well, but not all of them because there just is really so many. But you can definitely look through their page and see if there's grants to go to conferences, fellowships, scholarships, travel grants, all sorts of things here that are ALA specific related. And not all of them, you do not necessarily have to be an ALA member to apply for all of these. So check out their details on there. There is, if you are K-12, there is a specific page that is tracking some of those kind of grants, trying to at least. Yeah, it's working on it. There we go. Technological Horizons in Education. These are specifically K-12 grants. So if you are in a school, kindergarten through 12th grade school, this would be a good resource for your specific grants. Some of these I also share, but not all of them. Like I said, my page, I do kind of pick and choose sometimes, so you can find a lot more there. And then on our own, within our own system here in Nebraska Access, which is our databases here at the Library Commission, we also have websites that our reference staff here gather and resources, and we have a specific section that's specifically for grants. Also the grant resources, how to fund, elements of grant proposal, other places to find grants, the Department, U.S. Government's grant page, Nebraska Grant Watch. So lots of things here that you could find some more resources for finding grants. So that's some general things where you can expand out beyond what I have highlighted here on my page. So I'm going to scroll back to the top and then start going through some of these to get you some ideas of the kind of things that are out there. Now, I said, of course, we have our Nebraska Library Commission grants. They are open right now. All 4 of our grants all have the same deadline. They're all due November 14th. As I said, we did do a previous NCompass Live session about that, and we have a link to the recording on our main grants page for our Library Commission grants. So if you want to know more about the details of all these, you can go there. We have CE and training grants if you want to attend a conference or have any professional development. We have 2 grants that have closed already. We had Fern V. Heim Library Trustee Scholarship Grants. These are grants for your board members, library board members, to attend conferences, specifically the Nebraska Library Association Conference, which is next week, and the Association for Rural and Small Libraries Conference, which already happened this year. This is an annual grant. It is just wrapped up for this year. It will reopen again next year for next year's conferences. So keep an eye on that one to see when that one opens up, probably the same time of year. We had a Little Free Library Early Literacy Grants, which is a one-time program that's already done as well. But then we have our other grants that are available right now. Internship grants, we will pay you, give you funding to hire someone to work at your library for a limited time as an intern. Library improvement grants, this is for any sort of resources or services or equipment or furniture or things that you need for your library. These library improvement grants used to be our LSTA grants, Library Services and Technology Act grants from the federal government through the IMLS, Institute of Museum and Library Services. But due to the uncertainty of federal funding, we now fund them fully with state funds. All of our grants here from the Library Commission are just state funded. So no more federal requirements for that. So you will notice those requirements for the library improvement grants are have been lessened. They're a little easier, but less stressful now. And then our youth grants for excellence, anything for your children and teens that you might want to do. So that's our grants here. Like I said, I'm not going to go into them in detail. There's a whole nother session about that. And then I do have our other 2 that have closed listed here too. Our regional library systems, we have 4 regional library systems in Nebraska. They all offer grants as well, specifically scholarship grants to attend trainings, attend workshops, attend conferences. So if you are needing funding to travel to attend either our local Nebraska Library Association conference or anything, anywhere in the country, or anywhere you want to go really, I highly recommend looking at their scholarship grants. They each of them have their own, so check and see which system you are in and apply for their grants. You can also combine these grants. So if you apply for a CE and training grant to attend, for example, the PLA conference, Public Library Association conference, and our grant only covers part of your costs, you can then also apply for one of the regional library system grants to cover more of the funding. You do not have to have just one grant to attend, and then if that one doesn't cover everything, you've got to figure out how to get the rest of the funding. You can have multiple and stack them, so to speak. Our Nebraska Library Association also has various grants through the NLA itself, and also specifically the college and university section has its own couple of grants. There is the Louise A. Nixon Scholarship Grant that is for helping attend library programs, scholarship to help any part-time or full-time graduate level library education. So if you're want to work towards an MLS or just take any courses that are library related, this would be the grant for you. It has already been done for 2025, so look forward to open up in 2026. The college and university section has 2 grants. They have a professional development grant and a research grant, so 2 different purposes there. Professional development for attending conferences and things, or attending school, and then a research grant if you want to do some sort of research project on some sort of topic. The CNU section will help fund that. And they also have specifically for the NLA conference, Gumdrop Books has teamed up, sponsors a grant to, again, have funding to attend, to help any costs you might have to attend the Nebraska Library Association conference. Again, of course, it's already done for 2025 because the conference is next week, but it is a regular thing that will be going on. So look for that. Also, if you need funding to travel or for a hotel or meals or whatever for next year's conference. So those are some obviously very Nebraska-centric resource grants. The rest of this page is going to be a mixture of things that are Nebraska focused or regionally focused on for libraries in just the Midwest, but some of these are national. So if you're not a Nebraska library attending, because I know we did have some people who registered who are not Nebraska, do pay attention to which ones are Nebraska specific and which ones are national. So some of these may not be eligible, you may not be eligible for, but look for them in your own states. For example, we have a Nebraska Arts Council that does grants. You might have an Arts Council in your state. We have Humanities Nebraska, Nebraska Community Foundation, Nebraska State Historical Society. You probably have those in your own state, so look at yours as well. So let's go through some of these that we do have here. The way I have the other grants here on the page arranged is if there are current ones that are available and have an application date coming up soon, they will be at the top of the list here. This Creative Aging Arts Program grant is just an ongoing grant. So as you can see, it doesn't have a deadline. It's just 6 weeks ahead of whenever you're going to have an event. But anytime something has got an application deadline coming up or it's open right now, I put it at the top. After that, I then have all Nebraska related ones. And if, oops, I got to fix that. I said I have a 5 there. Any Nebraska related ones come next. And if they are actually open, I pop them to the top so you find them first. When they are closed, I will, if they're an ongoing grant, I move them down and with information about when they were due. Some of them are just the Civic and Community Center Financing Fund. They're just always due annually. Got a regular schedule. Some grants have specific dates. They change every time. So I will have information here about when grants were due, and then when they are open again, I'll pop them back to the top of the page. I also, when a new grant is opening or I've just heard of a new grant, I will push it out onto our mailing lists. So we have mailing lists for everyone in the state, all librarians in the state. I will push it out there and put it on our blog. So letting you know that this grant is available and it's open now and you can go ahead and take a look at it. So this Creative Aging Arts Program is a really great one. This is when we've been doing a lot of work with the Nebraska Arts Council. They've been on NCompass Live a couple of times talking about their programming that they do. So this is special funding that they have, and it's starting with summer of 2025, but it's an ongoing thing. And this is for seniors in your community, anyone 55 or older, and doing artist residencies where art people, any sort of artists, painters, writers, sculptors will come in and work with your seniors on teaching them how to do these things. And it's just an ongoing rolling grant. Just you want to apply 6 weeks ahead of when you plan on having a program so that they can, approve you or not, and you can get everything ready to go before the program actually comes up. Now it does say funds are limited. So eventually this is a specific fund, pot of money that they have available. Eventually this grant will be expended. As of today, it's still going. So take a look at that one. ALA's Libraries Transforming Communities grant. This is a regular one that comes up annually. This one is the Accessible Small and Rural Communities grant, and this is specifically for small and rural libraries, which is most of our libraries in Nebraska. As you can see, to be eligible, a library must have a legal service area of 25,000 or less and be located at least 5 miles from any other, and what they call an urbanized area, which is a population with 25,000 or greater. So this is for, and specifically for accessible small and rural libraries, this is about serving people with disabilities. So anything that would be helping people with disabilities be able to access your library, attend programming, special programming for them, whatever you may come up with for that. So this one is open right now. This has been an annual program. I think this is the 4th or 5th round. I forget, but it is the final round. This was an annual program, and now this is the last year to apply. Applications are due December 11th, so you have plenty of time to come up with an idea and submit one for this one. But this is the last round of funding for this specific accessible small and rural communities type of grant from ALA. The IEEE Science Kits for Public Libraries. This is from the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers. Probably something you would never thought of looking at an organization like that for a library, but they have specifically actually put together this grant program, and we've had it for a few years. We've been promoting it with them for science kits for public libraries for your K-12 children that use the library. There is funding to put together science kits that you would check out to the kids. That one is open now and due January 15th of 2026. So those are the ones that have deadlines coming up right now. The rest of the ones here that I'm going to go through either have ongoing applications are accepted all the time, or just regularly throughout the year, or their grants have closed for this year because we are late in the year. So 2025 grants have mostly been awarded, but there are some things you can look at for next year. Does anybody have any questions yet about any of the grants I'm mentioning, about what I'm doing here? Or if you have any grants that you know of, anything you've applied for that you found out was really good and helpful, or any grants that you struggled with applying for. We always like to know, who would you not go back to again, or tips and tricks of your own. Anything you do, type into the question section of the GoToWebinar interface, and I will, I've got that open over here, there we go, and I will grab those for everyone. All right, so Humanities Nebraska. This is something I think a lot of libraries have used this to bring speakers into your library. This is done throughout the year. There is not a specific deadline for these, but you can, anything related to humanities, this does have a match, a one-to-one match with their grant funds, and either cash or in-kind budget items that you would have to provide on your side. And as you can see, they do say, yes, Humanities Nebraska is still accepting grant applications and awarding grants. They also were struggling with funding, but they do have grants available that you can apply for. And I think here we have, we scroll down a bit, the different kind of grants that they have, and they just have general every year, the rolling kind of deadline. Mini grants for $2,000 or less, major grants if you want something over $2,000, and then specifically a media grant, which is also more than $2,000. So depending on what you're doing, you would apply for a different type by amount. They all have the same basic requirements for them. It just depends on how much funding you are looking for. And you can see they've got a map and information about their 2025 recipients. So we work with Humanities Nebraska a lot on various programs that we do here. So definitely if you are doing anything humanities-wide, culture-wise, this would be something that you could apply for. And there is grant application requirements. They have online sessions for more information. So you can look here to see more information about that. They do tell you to reach out to them when you're working on your application. Some of these grants, some grants are just like submit it and we'll look at it, but they want to work with you on these. So I highly recommend reaching out to them when you are thinking about anything humanities related that you want to apply for. The Nebraska Arts Council, which was also the one up here that does the specific program on creative aging arts program for seniors, also has all sorts of grants for anything arts related. And they have lots of grants available on different topics, and they all have their own deadlines and requirements. So I would definitely recommend looking for this. Artists in schools, grant funding to hire artists for interactive learning sessions, arts accessibility, or new state poet, if you want to bring our new state poet into your library. She would love to do that. She's doing a lot of traveling, and you could do that. School bus for the arts grants, artist fellowships, creative districts. So all sorts of, and here's that creative aging through the arts program that I highlighted at the top because they have special funding for that now. So anything arts related, look at each one of these. They each have their own requirements and deadlines. But if you want to do something arts related at your library, they are a great group to work with. Now, the Nebraska Community Foundation, this would depend on if you have one of these affiliated funds in your community. Many communities have their own foundations and that are done locally, but the Nebraska Community Foundation is a statewide organization that can monitor and run your municipalities or your county's affiliated funds. And you can do a search here and see if your community is listed. As you can see, it's a huge list, so I'm not going to go through all of it, but so you can see the kind of areas. Arnold Community has one, Auburn Public Schools has a specific one, Axtell Community Fund. So these are things just for anything in that community if they're not specific to, like, you know, the public school like this one is. Lake Springs has one, Butler County, so the county-wide ones. So definitely recommend looking through these and seeing if there is one in your area that you could apply for anything you want to do at your library. The Nebraska State Historical Society has had a grant program for a long time, and they just recently changed the name of it. It still does the same thing, and this is supposed to be 2025. I had a typo there. It is 2025. Applications were due September 15th. So this one just closed up for this year, but as I said, it's an annual thing. It is now the Rome, Nebraska Discovery Program. There we go. And it just launched this year for the first time with this new branding of it. So this is anything that is about Nebraska history, school visits, youth and family engagement activities, professional development, conference registrations, et cetera, et cetera. These will be awarded this month, it says. So if you're looking to do anything history-wise, is there anything near your library that you might partner with that is historical site? This would definitely be a grant for you. As you can see, it says used to be called their Nebraska State Historical Society Foundation statewide grants program, but now they're calling it Rome, Nebraska. So any local historical educational related programming you might want to do, look for this one to open up again for, again, as we said, next year. And then we have some things that are from the state of Nebraska. The Department of Economic Development has a couple of different resources that are available for you. The Civic and Community Center Financing Fund and the Community Development Block Grants. These are things that you, again, might not think, oh, that means libraries, but they are for Nebraska municipalities. And as you are a part of your municipality, you're one of your department of your municipality, your library, your city could apply for these grants for something to be done to the library. So this is when you're thinking about construction. If you need any repairs done to the library, new library building built, expansion, renovations, that's the kind of thing that these you could apply for. As you can see here, this is done in the beginning of the year, so this is something to think about for next year. The letter of intent to apply January 15th, and then a full application due February 15th every year. This is an annual grant. So now would be when you would think about if you need any, there we go, work done on your library. And they've got some idea things here where they have done things, Racket Club, Aquatic Park. So anything community related, community center, Sunken Gardens and Alliance, but libraries would fall into that category. And this is a one-to-one match. So this grant will cover 50% of a project's total cost. You or your municipality would have to come up with the other half of it, which could come from your own budgets, your own city budget, or other grants. And this is as eligible in Nebraska municipalities, rural cities and village, and tribal governments can apply for these grants. The only, this is one because it is very rural, Lincoln and Omaha have a different program that they apply for. So if you're in Lincoln or Omaha, this would not be for you, but for everyone else in Nebraska could apply for this for anything construction related. And then the community development block grants, same thing. For these particular grants, They do require that your library is accredited. So that is going through the, being accredited through us here at the Nebraska Library Commission through our public library accreditation program. And it has just a 25% match. I did a webinar about this. So I'm not sure if the webinar is still up, but these were due September 15th as well. So this one for this year, again, it's an annual grant. So think about it again for next year for any acquisition, construction, or rehabilitation of facilities. So we're talking about library construction projects. So those are two great ones here through Nebraska. Now the USDA Community Facilities Loans and Grants, this is through the U.S. Department of Agriculture. With the federal government shutdown that we're in right now, they are not updating things or anything on their website. So it is a great grant to apply for again, construction, improving your facilities. But right now it is most likely on hold because the federal government shutdown. So look at that, look at those after that's over. And the Center for Rural Affairs has put together a great grant application guide for rural communities that you could use when you are applying for these. So I would definitely recommend looking at that. There we go. For applying for federal grants. So if you do need some tips and tricks and things on how the best practices for applying for federal grants, this resource guide is very good for that. So those are some of our more local things. And now the rest of the grants on here are just kind of alphabetical by the name of the grant. And like I said, as they are available, they'll pop up to the top of the page so you see them first. I have to scroll down to all of them. I rearrange this page regularly. For imprint, this is one that I was not aware of, but a library, I can't remember which one, mentioned that they got like $500 just to buy tote bags for handing out books or for lending things out. But any promotional items for imprint, which you've probably seen the commercials on TV, they give grants daily. They just are regularly giving out grants to any nonprofits, and many, many libraries use them. So if you need any sort of promotional things from for imprint, you know, pens, keychains, tote bags, water bottles, whatever, you can apply for their grants and probably get, and they are $500 grants and they're just done every day. So just think of something you need, apply for a grant, and you can repeatedly apply for things if you need any sort of that kind of promotional materials. ALA has this specific grant that I promoted, building library capacity grants. Those were due April 9th. This is specifically for immigrants, serving immigrants and refugees. And this building library capacity grants, they do change the focus of each year. So, and you do not have to be an ALA member. So it's another one to keep an eye on for next year. Here also railways. We have lots of railroads going through Nebraska, of course. The BNSF Railway Foundation, Burlington Capital Foundation, and then down at the bottom here, because it's alphabetical, Union Pacific Community Ties Giving Program. All of these are grant programs that libraries can apply for. Here, Union Pacific's, that you fall under Community Vitality Funding Priority. And you just need to look at their map and see they are communities served by the railroad. This one is, as you can see here, they've already announced it will open up next year in the month of April. So keep an eye on their website for the Union Pacific one. And BNSF and Burlington, they just do things regularly. So you can, well, BNSF Railroad, they have a map here. See if I can get that open, showing where they cover. There we go. So as you can see, it's mainly center of the country, a little bit western. So, and of course, here's Nebraska. So anywhere in Nebraska would be eligible for this. All open application period. No specific deadlines. Apply whenever you want. Burlington Capital Foundation. This libraries would fall under education, arts, and community improvement. This is specific for Nebraska and Iowa. Also, applications available just throughout the year. So many of these you don't have to worry about, oh, is there a deadline? Did I miss it? They're just open all the time. And this is where I was talking about, think about things that are just, don't scream library, but talk about things you would do, education, arts. Excuse me. The Dollar General Literacy and Summer Reading Grants. These are great grants. I know many libraries have applied to these before. They are all done, of course, for 2025, but they will be reopening again in January of next year. And they have specific grants depending on who you're serving when it comes to literacy. There we go. There's adult literacy grants, youth literacy grants, family literacy grants, specifically for summer reading, and then school libraries affected by disasters funding, so specific to that. And you can see here, the next cycle for adult literacy grant applications will open in January 2026. I believe that's the same for adult, family, and youth. Youth opens in March, summer reading January. So adult, family, and summer reading all open in January. Youth literacy will open in March. And the school one is just at any time, because you never know when a disaster may happen. But these are great grants, and you can focus in on, depending on which area, which group you are going to be serving with literacy programming. Here's a new one that I had found out about, the First Interstate Bank System Foundation. Grants and donations in communities served by First Interstate Bank, which includes Nebraska. And they do specifically mention things that they're focused on: arts and culture, civic and community affairs, K-12 and higher education. So things that libraries would definitely be doing, and just reviewed monthly. At any time you can apply. I do have IMLS on here. I did mention that we used to use Institute of Museum and Library Services funding for our library improvement grants, that we have switched those to state, but IMLS does have its own grants. Again, with the federal government shutdown right now, not available. There's probably information on their page about it, but again, wait for the government shutdown to be over, and then you'll be able to apply for grants that they have. They have grants specifically for museums, for libraries, for tribal museums and libraries. So different focuses from IMLS. This one is a prize. It's not a grant necessarily, but it is a very cool thing that the Jerry Klein Foundation, Family Foundation does through, in conjunction with Library Journal magazine. So any library who has shown to be a vital community asset, having an impact on your community, and you get $250,000 in unfettered grant monies. The applications were just due September 15th. This is also, though, an annual grant as well. So I would definitely keep an eye out for that one when it does open up again for 2026. If you think your library has done something great and had a huge impact on the community, that would be something you could apply for. This is another new one I learned about through that the grants Grant Station newsletter that I get. Max and Victoria Dreyfus Foundation. This is for community-based nonprofit organizations in the United States, and it does specifically mention publicly supported organizations such as schools, libraries, or other local government. And this is a twice a year program, May 10th and November 10th. So you do have time to apply for them for, it's small things, little amounts, but they do provide grants to libraries, schools and libraries. So take a look at their page to see if you want to apply for theirs. Their next award deadline in November. Now here's something specific. The Pilcrow Foundation is not just a grant program, it is specifically to purchase children's books for rural public libraries. Again, rural, population under 10,000, that's most of our libraries, and even actually most of us, priority to communities under 5,000, and that's actually even most of us is under, in Nebraska, under 5,000. They have a children's book project grant just for books and a disaster relief grant, also for libraries or areas suffering from disasters. They do it in cycles, April 1st and October 1st. So of course the October one just passed, but you can look for the April 1st deadline that will be coming up. There we go. So new quality hardcover children's books to rural public libraries across the United States. So if you need books for your library, this is something, we all know what's happening with Baker and Taylor closing down, that libraries are struggling to find, get their books. This may be something that could help you with getting new books to your library. So there is the just the children's book project, and then there is the, as I said, disaster relief grants. If you have had a disaster, a fire, flood, tornadoes, hurricanes, any natural disasters, you can get funding to replace any of the books that were lost in any of those because of any of those things. And this is the same also for rural libraries. So population of 10,000 or less, or priority to 5,000, and also certain distance from an urban area. Their requirement is 40 miles from any population over 50,000. Love the Pilcrow Foundation. Public Library Association does literacy workshop incentive grants, and this is also a regular thing. They use PLA's digital learn courses and training materials that you would have access to. The grants were due for 2024-25 last October. I haven't seen if they've opened them up for this year yet. I should check on that. But they do have a new pilot program for digital navigators. This is training people to use their digital courses. So this is something for if you're trying to get your community, any of your people using your library up to speed on digital things, digital literacy. These applications would be, this grant would be a good one for you to look into. Again, construction. Robert B. Daugherty Foundation, and just popping down here, Sunderland Foundation, both grants for capital building construction projects. That's something else to look for if you're looking for doing something in your building. Capital construction is a phrase to use, capital projects. That's what they would call that. And to tax exempt organizations, that is public libraries, 501c3 nonprofits, that is would be your public library. Those are both two grants good for that. The Daugherty Foundation is accepting grants throughout the year. So this is just a regular thing. You can, they just meet periodically throughout the year. No specific deadlines, no specific dates. So if you're looking for anything construction-wise, you could look into that one. The Sunderland one here, I do still have it on here, but you'll note it does say they're not accepting applications at this time. They are looking at their funding guidelines, and I'm going to be updating that information. And it does say that it will be expected in December of this year, they'll have new guidelines. So they're not open at the moment, but they will be have more information coming in December. But I have recommended that one before, so I definitely keep that. I'm keeping that one on there, and I would keep an eye on it. I will update this when I do have more information, when they do announce what their new guidelines and deadlines would be. So those two are, I mentioned together because they're both about capital construction. But in between them, this is alphabetical, the Rural Technology Fund. So if this is for any rural technology education projects you're doing, assistive technology, and this is specifically for any of your students with disabilities in public schools and libraries. Again, no specific deadlines, just apply whenever you think of something you want. They do the awards every couple of months as they get applications in. There we go. So if you are thinking of anything and this is very, I like this one too, teacher and student-led projects in public schools and libraries. So getting your students involved, getting your teens or your kids involved as well. So anything technology related that they would be interested in. And this is something also, I hear that, there we go. That I'll notice here, because they do say, here's what we do fund and here's what we do not fund. Definitely something to look at when you're looking at any of these grants, because they will often they will list who is not eligible or the kind of projects we do not fund. So before you apply for something and go through all that time and effort on your side of composing a grant, submitting it, and then submitting it and then finding out, oh wait, they don't cover that kind of thing, read everything ahead of time. Make sure when you are applying for a grant that what you are asking for funding for is actually something eligible for that grant. We've had that issue sometimes with some of our grants from the Library Commission, where people have applied for a grant and it's like, well, we don't actually cover that kind of thing. That's not what this grant is for. So you can always look at that for any of these grants, if they do have that, to make sure that you're not wasting your own time or the grant giver's time. All right, and then I guess we're at almost the enter. Yeah, the last one here that I have to mention is the T-Mobile Hometown Grants. This is something that T-Mobile is doing over 5 years, so through 2026. 2026 will be the last year that they do this. They put budgeted $25 million and using over 5 years. Small towns, villages, and territories across America, community projects. These are done quarterly, so just as a regular thing every quarter. And anything about community spaces, getting your hometown, your small rural hometown, I think updated. As you can see here, the town, they actually mention the public library, the town square, historic building, park, ball field, and anyone. It's not just your library that apply, your town leaders, your town manager, anyone who's in charge of a nonprofit in your community, maybe your community foundation could apply for this. It does have to be populations of less than 50,000. We're good for that here for most of Nebraska. So definitely recommend looking into the T-Mobile Hometown Grants, especially since they are only going to be doing this through next year. I don't think they've said the specific deadline of the last time they're going to do it, but it is it was a specific 5-year program. And then there's all the information on here on how to apply, all the steps. Most of these grants do have really good guidelines and resources. Today I'm just giving you an idea of the kind of things that are out there. I'm not going through the step-by-step of each grant, but look at all of their guidelines and information and what you need to include when you are applying for any of these grants. And I already mentioned the Union Pacific ones. Yes, all right. So that is some of the grants that I have here on this page. Just trying to find different places for libraries to find funding. As I said, this webpage will be updated as I could discover new ones, like this Dreyfus Foundation one was a new one that I came across. The first interstate bank system one is a new one. So I'm always adding things and removing things. There were some grants, I was just updating this page earlier today that I discovered have closed down or are wrapping up now. So things will be removed from here as well once I find out a grant is no longer available, or for example, like the T-Mobile, once they are totally done with this one, it would be removed from this page. So I try to have this just be grants that are currently available or are annual type grants that you can apply for, and the deadline's coming up next year. So does anybody have any questions about grant funding, about grants that you're interested in, about any projects you're thinking of doing? Type into the questions section and let me know if you have any questions, if you have any grants or any things that you've applied for that you think other people might want to apply for as well. I can add things to my page. As I said, this is a work in progress here. I will say we're a little bit after 11 o'clock, but that's okay. We did start a little late today with getting everybody up and running, so we'll go as long as you all have any questions or anything you want to share. Go ahead and type into that questions section. Oh, if we want to borrow the book Winning Grants, what is the process for that? Yes, you can do that through our interlibrary loan. Reach out to our interlibrary loan people and or our reference staff downstairs, and they can check that book out to you. We loan books to libraries all across the state. So reach out to our reference department and ask them about borrowing that book. Yeah. Oh, and we do have, let's see here. Oh, nice. Okay, so Sammy here in Valley says, we did the ALA Libraries Transforming Communities grant. That's the one for the accessible libraries for people with disabilities, and highly recommend going for it. Great. We used funds to become more autism sensory friendly. Oh, I love that. But they're also great for things like wheelchair ramps, automatic door buttons, etc. Yes, definitely something that we need. I know libraries struggle with ADA accommodations, so that's something you're supposed to be. There it is right here. ADA accessible as a public resource, but it is difficult for some libraries to do that. The ALA Transforming Communities grants for accessible small rural library communities would be a great resource, great funding for that. And remember, this is the final round of that. So for this particular grant, you've got this is the last time to apply for it, December 11th. That's great, Sam. I'm so glad to hear that you all did that at your library. But if you are looking for anything like that, wheelchair ramps, automatic doors, any of the construction type related grants, capital funding grants, capital program projects that I mentioned. Here. Capital construction projects. Those would be things to look into applying for if you do want to do something like that as well. And that's our community development block grants and civic and community center financing funds here in Nebraska would be great for those as well. Acquisition, construction, or rehabilitation of facilities, construction or improving community facilities. Absolutely. Any other questions? Let's see. Yeah. Any other questions, comments, or thoughts about grants? Let me just check something over here. Yes, okay. You were asking about, I was just double checking about the book, The Winning Grants. Yes, you can, if you go up here to our NLC catalog, this is our library catalog for the Library Commission. And let's see, I'm gonna put myself right on the spot here and see what we have. There we go. Stephanie Girding, Winning Grants, winning the grant proposal, survival guide, winning grants. Here we go, 2024. There's her new version of it. So you could find out, oh, it's not available right now, somebody's got it, but we do have that. And if you just reach out to our staff here at the reference desk, if you would like to borrow it, they will be able to get that out to you. Let's see, we do question. There we go. Has NLC ever done a grant writing workshop? We haven't done like a grant writing workshop necessarily, but for example, this NCompass Live that I did have last year was done by Catherine Brockmeyer, who's a consultant, a grant consultant. She will help you with your grants. So this is like a session that will give tips and tricks to that. We haven't done an in-depth type grant writing workshop. No, could be something to do, yeah. And we got some thanks from a lot of info. Someone says, thank you for bringing this to us and keeping it out there. Oh, it is a lot, yes. There is a lot of info here. I hope it was helpful. And like I said, I do, when new grants come available, I do post them on our blog and push them on our mailing list. So keep an eye on when I do any of those. See if I had a recent one. And whenever I do put one on here, let's see, I'm going to do a search for grants. Of course, as a reminder about today's. So here's when I announced the science kits. So the same message would go onto our mailing list, and I always put a little for more grants. Check out our page to remind people that those are over there. So I do try to keep updating you when new grants are available. What other questions do you have? Good question. Someone asked, are there grants to help with unexpected building damage and repairs? Or would those be the same as the building construction project ones? Sometimes there have been grants that have been specifically put out if there was some specific event. Like when we had flooding years ago in Nebraska, I know there were grants specific for that. But yes, any general building construction or capital program ones would be, you'd definitely be eligible for those and would want to apply for those for that. And of course, I think having not just your reason for doing the building work, not just because we want to update it or we need to update it, but because, you know, a flood came through, would definitely give you, I think, points to, I would think personally, of course, I do not know the criteria, but would definitely be a good story to tell about the reason why you need this grant to update the building, because there was some sort of damage from some sort of either natural disaster or just, you know, old age deterioration of the building, that kind of thing too. So I don't know of any specific ones for unexpected damage to buildings, but any of those construction related ones would be good ones to apply for. All right, I think we will, thank you for the information. Let me just check. Okay. All right, I'm not seeing any other new questions coming in. Just checking. All right, any other last minute desperate questions you want to ask of me before we do wrap things up? I want to be, respectful of everyone's time. Just some more. Thank you for the information, the updates. I was double checking if I got any emails. Okay. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining me today for this. I hope it was helpful for you. I hope you find some great resources for your library and to help funding. Oh, and great, you already requested the book from us. Awesome. I love that. In quick turnaround there. For looking for that book. Yes. If ours is checked out, look elsewhere. Interlibrary loan is your friend. Use it definitely. See if any other libraries have it, possibly. That Stephanie's book there about winning grants. So hopefully it's still helpful for you. Definitely look at some of these grants. Apply for our grants. As I said, our grants are open here for the Library Commission. Due November 14th is the deadline for our Nebraska Library Commission grants. But then do apply for any of these others. All right, so I think we will wrap it up for today. Gonna pop over here to our main NCompass Live page. As I said, the show is recorded and will be available here on our main NCompass Live page. If you use whatever is your search engine of choice and type in NCompass Live, you'll find our main page and our archive page. Our upcoming shows are here. Our archive, a link to our archive page is right beneath them. Most recent show at the top of the list. Today's show, the recording will be available by the end of the day tomorrow. Everyone who attended today's show and registered for today's show will get an email from me letting you know what's available, and the link will be here. I also will push out that information to our mailing list and to our Facebook page. I'll go back to our slide page. There we go. So we are on Facebook. If you like to use Facebook, give us a like and you'll see our posts announcing our shows. Here's a reminder to log into today's show, an announcement about today's, and then when we did, I did up the recording of last week's show. We do put a reminder here as well, an announcement here as well. Across our social media, we have a Facebook page. The Library Commission has a Facebook page and an Instagram page. We use the NComp Live hashtag abbreviation of our show name. So definitely give us a like over there. This is our show archives. You can see here we do have a search feature, so you can search for any topic if you want to see if we've done a show on a particular topic. You can search our full show archives or just most recent 12 months if you want something just current. That is because this is our full show archives, and I am not going to scroll all the way down because you can see this is a very huge page, but this does go back to when NCompass Live first premiered, which was in January of 2009. So 2025, we are in our 17th year of NCompass Live, and all of our shows are here on this page. So it is a large page, but you can do a search. And I do just recommend, do pay attention to the original broadcast date of any show. Many of the shows will be fine to watch. They'll stand the test of time. They'll still be good, useful resources and good information, but some things will become old and outdated. Resources may have changed drastically. Links might be broken. We don't have the capability to keep up with all that. People may work at different places than when they actually presented for us. So just be aware of whatever the original broadcast date is. But this is something libraries do. We keep things for historical purposes often. And as long as we have a place to do that, which right now is the Nebraska Library Commission's YouTube channel, as long as we have a place to host them, all of our recordings will always be out there. So just want to see historically what we were doing on the show 10 years ago. Could be fun to watch some things too. So that is our archives. So, and here's our upcoming shows for the next couple of months. We've got, excuse me, November fully filled in. December, I've got some things I'm going to be filling in with more details there. So do join us for any of our upcoming shows. As I mentioned a couple of times today, next week is the the annual Nebraska Library Association annual conference, and we always take that week off from NCompass Live. Many of our staff and many other people across the state are so involved in the conference, we don't have the show. So there is no NCompass Live next week. Next Wednesday, I will actually be at the conference in York on Wednesday, so maybe I'll see some of you there. So we will be off next week. We will be back at the end of the month to hear about the Nebraska Celebration of Books, which is the annual book Nebraska Literary Festival happening on November 15th here in Lincoln. So if you want to learn all more about that, sign up for that show. That is the next time we'll be back. And there's all of our upcoming shows. So hopefully, thank you everyone for being here with me today, and hopefully I'll see some of you on a future episode of NCompass Live. Bye-bye.